Paris, that's right. The Chicago housing market is on fire. The number of local home sales skyrocketed in late 2020 and early this year, driving prices in the Chicago metro area to all-time highs. Sales were up almost 25% in March of this year compared to March 2020, according to data from the trade group Illinois Realtors. Now that's translated into lightning fast turnover as people put their homes up for sale, as well as a decline in inventory of available houses and units. Joining us with more on what's driving this seller's market are Luis Lopez, an assistant professor at the Stewart Handler Department of Real Estate at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and Dennis Rodkin, who covers the residential real estate market for Crain's Chicago Business. Welcome to Chicago Tonight. Welcome back to Chicago Tonight, both of you. Dennis, let's start with you, please. Give us a brief overview of what the residential market looks like in Chicago right now.
It looks like a wildfire. It looks like it's really hard to believe how quickly houses are selling, how fast prices are going up. Brandis, I've been covering this for a long time. And since 2007, since the last big boom or the end of the last big boom, we have seen nothing like this. There are homes, large numbers of homes sell without ever going on the market or officially going on the market. They go on private listing networks. They sell via informal networks, families, neighbors, that sort of thing, before ever hitting the market. And we've had double-digit price increases week after week throughout the past 4 or 5 months over the corresponding week from a year earlier.
And Louise, how has the pandemic changed home buying habits?
Well, one of the first things is that individuals are able to work from far away, not necessarily in their workplace. As a result, there's a desire to move away from the city and go to the suburbs or locations where there's more room, more elbow room, right? Space between houses and so forth.
Dennis, how much of a role would you say low interest rates are playing in this?
It's making it all possible. If I'm interested in moving for reasons that Louise said, or I'm just interested in moving because we've gotten married, we've had more children, whatever it is, I need classroom space for kids who are schooling at home. What's making it possible is interest rates have been so low, it's sort of hard to believe. Your parents would not, their jaws would drop if they knew that you're taking out a loan at below 3% interest. In the 70s and 80s, they were borrowing at over 15% interest. The fact that interest rates have been below 3% for so long, or stayed below 3% for a very long time in late 2020 and early 2021, means that houses have been more affordable than they had been in decades.
Louise, how does this compare with what's going on around the rest of the country?
Well, pretty much when you look at it nationwide, the general trend is that consumers have been able to save quite a lot of money over the last 12 months and build wealth from massive returns in equity investments like stocks. And then also the government assistance like the stimulus checks have substantially helped out. So across the nation, what we're seeing is that households or people who want to become homeowners have more have more money in their pocket and are bringing it to the negotiating table when putting a bid on a property.
Dennis, you mentioned, price increases, the percentage, it's, into the double digits. Do we see any signs that this frenzy might slow down?
Yes, it might. And part of the reason is that prices have gone up so much that it's going to shake sellers into the market. I was unwilling to sell because for a lot of reasons, I thought it was too expensive for me to move. My home was underwater. I owed more on the mortgage than the house is worth. Or I was just scared because I keep seeing these houses down my block sell in 4 or 5 days, and I don't think I can find a home fast enough. But the prices are getting so high, and people are finding ways to make up for some of those problems I mentioned, that we're starting to see the inventory of homes come on the market, a larger number of homes come on the market. And as inventory rises, of course, as there's more supply, then the demand doesn't drive prices up quite so much. But that doesn't mean we're going to go from the 17% price increases we've had down to 3%. It just seems as if it will mellow a little bit.
Now, Luis, I hear a lot of this, and a lot of folks start to think about the housing boom in the mid-2000s that led us to the Great Recession. Are you concerned at all that something similar could happen now?
A lot needs to happen so that we observe something like in the previous recession. Just to start off, the financing aspect or the financing fundamentals are very, very different. In the previous recession, or leading up to the previous recession, a lot of loans that should not have been made were made. And during this period today, the underwriting standards are substantially higher. People need higher credit scores. They need to show that they have the right debt to income ratio in order to qualify for a loan. So the borrowers out there, or the people who are obtaining loans, they're more likely to pay them back. So, and then couple that with the increase in equity, it's going to be very difficult to see people actually defaulting on their mortgages or choosing not to pay their mortgages. So I would be surprised if we see something like the previous recession.
So not as likely to have that housing bubble that we had last time, which is probably a relief to a lot of people who were thinking that. Dennis, though, how much of a problem is low inventory in the housing market right now?
It's an extreme problem. I have talked to people who get 30 or 40 walkthroughs of a house the first couple of days it goes on the market. And that's not just because it's a really cool looking house. That's because there are very few others to look at. Inventory, we started 2021 with the smallest number of homes on the market going back to about 2007. And we had a very high wave of demand, and it just keeps it hasn't solved itself yet. We haven't brought enough homes on the market. I thought people would start getting flushed into the market when spring came, and some have, but it really hasn't increased to the point that what we need is for there to be more houses coming on the market than there are going off in any given week. And we are not at that point yet. Ordinarily, that wouldn't be such a great thing. It's just that inventory has been so tight that we need to build up a little extra by having more come on than go off the market, than get sold.
No, some buyers have gotten creative to get the attention of a potential seller. You know, Dennis, what's your advice to buyers who are on the market for a house right now?
Well, there are a couple of things. You should not plan to put in any contingencies. You should not say, we want your house, but we need to put contingent in the contract, the idea that first we have to sell ours. You should have all your financing lined up, because sellers, they're generally hit with a bidding war, and they're going to take the one that is most likely to go through, the one that's most convenient for them. If they have to put it under contract and then wait for you to get your house sold, that's not very convenient for them, and they have a lot of other options right now. So you should really put in a really good offer that is solid, that has everything nailed down, contingencies and otherwise. You also, several people have told me that generally you should be shopping for homes that are, if you're pre-qualified, let's just say for a $300,000 house, you should be shopping below that level at homes that are priced at about $280,000, because it's very likely that you're going to get into a bidding war and need to pay more than the sticker price. And you should be able to do that. You should be sure that you're shopping for things where you are actually able to do that. So shop below the amount that you're pre-approved for.
Good to know if you're in the market. My thanks to Dennis Rodkin and Luis Lopez for joining us.
Thank you.